Are you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we are the Quantum Mechanics. We're the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everyone in between. And new year, new Patreon. Big thank you to Sarah for joining us at patreon.com/TQM pod. Joining the many people who support us and help us put the podcast together, basically. Books, all the other stuff that we need to buy. Also get the episodes roughly a week early. Ben and Peter's Extra Scoop, the exclusive Patreon episode. Access to the Discord server. Lots of chat on there and postings. And yeah, really nice community. So Sarah, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, it's weather-wise, I feel like it's sunbathing Yeti weather today. It's freezing.
Yes, yeah. I had to chisel the car out of a block of ice to come over here.
It's it's absolutely crazy. We had good feedback to the episode we did a couple of weeks ago. I think we've started a new trend for chocolate oranges.
Now, somebody else has come up to me and said about I was mentioning chocolate oranges causing them to go out and buy chocolate oranges.
We should have got some sponsorship, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Has your daughter finished all of hers?
We've still got some left. There were a real variety of tastes. There was a kind of caramelly one, which was quite nice. Didn't have an orange bit to it. There was the normal chocolate oranges, obviously. There was a dark chocolate orange.
That's my favourite.
Mint as well.
No,
yeah. So, I think we've got a couple left, but we have been ploughing through them quite steadily, so yes.
There's no such thing as a mint ball.
I haven't had one of those centre flake things we were talking about yet. I've not managed to achieve that. They're really
You have to break them in a particular way, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, lovely though. Yes, so I have absolutely no idea what we're doing today, so it's going to be interesting.
Okay, well, we'll just get into it. So I'm going to take you to a patch of woodland in West Sussex, very specifically a patch of woodland off the A27 heading towards Worthing. If you look to your left...
I'm looking to my left, yeah, near the services.
You'll see a broccoli-shaped clump of ancient beech, an oak rising from the chalky soil of the South Downs.
Beech as a tree, sorry. I was visiting a sandy beach with a broccoli...
No.
To it,
No. Beech trees.
Yeah.
In the spring, it's carpeted in bluebells, and it's a popular place to go for a picnic. It's the very image of pastoral England.
Lovely.
Safe, ancient, and quiet. But, as you might expect, there is a but. For 50 years, the locals have known that the silence in Clapham Wood it's wrong. It's a silence that people have described having a weight to it. It's not just a lack of noise. Okay. It's a lack of life. It's like the Oz effect. Birds stop singing when you cross certain boundaries. Compass needles spin wildly, and we're going to come on to that later. And in the mid-1970s, something besieged this small patch of the English countryside. It wasn't a serial killer, although bodies would be found there. It wasn't a pack of wild animals. According to the people who lived through it, the terrified dog walkers and bewildered police, Clapham Wood had become a hunting ground, but the hunters weren't from Sussex. In fact, they weren't even from this earth.
Oh, here we go.
We're going to follow the tracks of the dogs that vanished into thin air.
Oh, alien abducting dogs?
Yeah, I'm really sorry. Oh. We're going to travel back to 1975 to start with. And the mid-1970s, I don't really remember it, but I was born in that period. Strikes, power cuts, 3 day weeks, you've probably all heard about it.
Candles.
But it's also, yes, candles, yeah. And it's also, interestingly, the time when Doctor Who was in its ascendance. And
who was the Doctor then?
It would be... would it be Troughton?
Okay.
Maybe.
Still black and whitish? No.
Well, BBC Two went colour in, 74, I think?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, sorry, I've taken us on a real diversion.
No, that's all right, because I was just going to say that the monsters on the television were not as real as the monsters in Sussex. You see, for months, the people in the surrounding villages, Clapham, Patching, Angmering, I love that word, Angmering, I never heard of Angmering before. They'd seen things. They'd seen strange orange lights drifting silently over the downs. They'd seen discs of white
Easy for you.
phosphorescence, which would shoot as the tree line and vanish into the stratosphere at impossible speeds. The police were, in fact, overwhelmed with calls. This wasn't just one or two. It was a mass phenomena. And a flap. But amidst the noise, a quieter and much nastier pattern was emerging. Peter Love, he lived in the village of Patching. Peter was your average local. He was, by some accounts, a normal man. He was a postman, a man who walked the same routes in, day out. He was not given to flights of fancy. In April 75, Peter Love owned a Chow Chow named Wallace. Now, for those of you who don't know the breed, Chow Chows are like a sturdy ancient breed. They're loyal, slightly aloof and tough. Have you ever come across a Chow Chow?
No, I it's funny, when you said Chow Chow, I was thinking like a little small cutesy dog, but obviously it's not one of those.
They're bigger than your dog. They're sort of a bit smaller than a Labrador. But they're a good sized dog.
Because I was thinking Wallace was an odd name, but now you've described it, Wallace seems like quite a good name.
Yeah, and he was 3 years old, and he was in the prime of his life.
Yep.
And one Tuesday morning, Peter's son took Wallace for a walk. They took the path they always took, heading up towards the dense canopy of Clapham Wood. The morning was crisp, there was dew on the grass, and the woods were beautiful. They approached an area known locally as the Chestnuts. It's a small copse, a darker patch of woodland within the woods, where the trees grow thick and the ground dips into a crater-like depression. Wallace was off the lead, trotting ahead. He knew the woods, he knew the scents. He was after badgers, foxes, rabbits, whatever. Peter's son stopped to tie a shoelace, and he looked down for 10 seconds.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
When he looked up, Wallace had gone. There was no sound of a struggle, no yelp of pain, no crashing through the undergrowth. Just nothing. So the boy is crying out, Wallace, and he's obviously called Wally as well. And he goes everywhere around this bit of wood. He walked forward, expecting the dog to pop up its head behind a fern. Nothing. He walked into the Chestnuts, and he described the air as feeling different, thicker, colder, charged with something static. He even checked the rabbit holes, and he spent hours searching. Eventually, he ran home to get his father, and Peter Love returned to the woods with friends. They formed a search party, and they combed every square inch of that copse. If Wallace had been stolen, there would have been footsteps. If he'd been attacked by a badger, there would be blood. If he'd fallen into a well, and there are old wells in Clapham, there would be a body. But there was nothing. Wallace, a 60-pound dog, had simply ceased to exist.
I'm assuming as well, we may get onto it, but it's probably not one of those things that the police are that bothered about. Do you know what I mean? It's a lost dog, right?
Yeah, well, that's true. But the press play a part in this.
Okay.
So as you can imagine, Peter was heartbroken, but he was also baffled, and he spoke to the Worthing Herald. And the morning that the story about the vanishing Chow came out is when the phone started ringing, because he wasn't the only one.
Oh, right.
Just after Wallace vanished, a man named John Cornford was walking his collie in exactly the same spot. So you know what a collie is, obviously a working dog. They're obedient, hyper-aware, attached to their owners, and they definitely don't just go wandering off.
Yep.
As they neared the Chestnuts, the collie's ears pinned back. The dog stopped dead. John tugged on the lead, urging him forward, but the dog was staring at something John couldn't see, something deep in the shadow of the trees. Suddenly the dog snapped. It broke from John's grip and bolted, not away from the trees, but into them, as if he was being pulled, as if he were chasing something irresistible. The collie ran into the clearing, and just like Wallace, it vanished. John Cornford ran after him immediately. He was only seconds behind, and he reached the spot where the dog had disappeared. The ground was empty. The air was silent. That was effect again. John searched until dark, and he returned the next day and the next. He never did see his dog again. Now, I want to just pause there, because dogs do go missing. It is a reality of rural life. They chase deer, they get stuck in badger sets, they do get stolen. But 2 dogs in the same week, in the exact same 10-yard radius of woodland, leaving no tracks.
And not small dogs either.
Not small dogs. The local papers dubbed it the Clapham Wood mystery. And as the reports made the rounds, a disturbing realisation hit the community. It wasn't just the dogs that were disappearing. It was what happened to the ones that came back.
Came back?
Yeah. You see, witnesses began coming forward with stories that sounded like something out of a Doctor Who episode. One woman, her name is Mrs. Wells, described walking her golden retriever near the woods. The dog, usually a picture of health, suddenly froze. It began to whimper, staring up at the canopy, not at a squirrel, but at the sky. Suddenly the dog's legs gave way. It collapsed in the dirt, paralysed. Mrs. Wells, also terrified, scooped the large dog into her arms, no easy feat, and dragged it back to the car. As soon as they left the vicinity of the woods, the dog shook its head and stood up, terrified but physically fine. Another walker reported their pug having a sudden violent seizure upon entering the tree line, foaming at the mouth, eyes rolling back, spinning in circles. They rushed it to the vet. The diagnosis? Clean bit of health. No poison, no epilepsy, just a sudden, inexplicable neurological short circuit.
And it had no effect on the owners at that point?
No.
They didn't feel anything. Interesting.
No.
Okay.
The locals started whispering. They started talking about the rays. They talked about the ground feeling electric. And then in 1975, the BBC arrived. You see, if you want to validate a mystery in 1970s Britain, you get it on the popular news programme Nationwide. It's the BBC's flagship magazine show, and it's serious journalism. It's a bit like the One Show today, but perhaps even more serious. So you do get economy and political stuff, but you get skateboarding ducks and paranormal mysteries.
Right.
And on Monday, September the 1st, 1975, millions of Britons tuned in to see a reporter standing on the edge of Clapham Wood. The segment is kind of fascinating as he interviews the locals and stands in the crater at the Chestnuts. And they brought in an expert, not a biologist, not a geologist, but a ufologist, and enter the National UFO Research Team. And we can hear what they have to say on this little clip.
When a local group of people calling themselves the National UFO Research Team heard about the disappearing dogs, they too got curious. Some of them, you see, are sure that Clapham Woods lies on a well-used flight path for unidentified flying objects. The intention was to test the whole area for radioactivity using a Geiger counter. It all went reasonably well until they strayed onto private land and were chased off by a very identifiable human gamekeeper. But the survey wasn't by any means entirely fruitless. A magnetic compass, it's claimed, was pulled off north by as much as 45 degrees by something strange in the woods.
Later on, after probing the wood a bit more, we came back onto the original footpath, and I suddenly found these gigantic footprints. And so it sort of frightened all of us quite a lot, you know. Although they were animal-like, the size of them was immense, you know. It was both my hands literally put together. It was huge, you know. But the strange thing was they wasn't there when I passed there before.
But when you say footprint, could you be more specific?
Well, although they appeared to me to be animal-like, yet the back half seemed like a human heel, you know, on a human foot. And so it was so immense. It was unbelievable. I don't think there's any animal around that could possess a foot like that. We were standing there discussing the footprints, and I suddenly looked along the path, and you know, where these footprints were, and there was a huge misty shape. Well, at the same time, I also noticed this silvery thing moving over the top of it, and it was just over the top of the trees, and then it suddenly moved a bit more, and then we suddenly saw it was a huge, great silvery coloured disc. And this huge misty form, whatever it was standing right beneath it.
So very briefly, what do you honestly think yourself's been going on here?
Well, I think these animals have been taken for some unknown reason. Literally taken by some craft of some sort.
You don't get interviewees like that often, do you?
He's very much Pete and Dudley Moore, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, I saw this shimmering object with a large foot. It was quite weird, really.
Yeah, it was very, very peculiar. So there was just a strange, misty form.
That's brilliant. What a great clip. So, interestingly, because actually the way you set this up, okay, the dogs, as far as I can understand it, in the early parts of this story, nobody had actually seen a UFO. So
No,
it was
that's
interesting
right,
they
haven't.
immediately kind of went for a UFO angle on it in terms of bringing experts in. Interesting.
Well, so there had been a talk with the locals and in between the locals to each other that there was something peculiar going on over here, and lights had been seen. If you remember, that was one of the early parts, but it hadn't been suggested so much that the dogs were being taken aboard a craft. It was more that the craft these lights had something to do with it. And as I understand it, it was Newfort, the National UFO Research Team. It was them who had suggested, well, basically their theory was that the Clapham Wood sat directly on a ley line. And they said that this is a magnetic pathway used by alien craft. And they claimed that the dense canopy of the woods provided the perfect camouflage for a small landing craft. That's basically that's their theory.
The footprints thing, when he was describing them, I don't know why, but I was thinking of Sasquatch as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Which has been associated with UFO sightings in the past. But
I mean, it's very disappointing that he didn't describe the footprints a little clearer.
it's got a heel.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of, so what he said was that they were the size of two of his hands put together with like a human heel, but he didn't describe how many toes or any other details about the foot, which...
and he had very small childlike hands.
Well, this is the thing. Like, an expert in the 1970s, yeah, I mean, he was not doing any TikToking, was he?
No. But, so the shimmering... So, sorry, the guy talking, the Pete and Dudley type guy, he's the UFO expert, is he?
Yeah.
So he says he sees this footprints, then he sees a kind of almost shimmering being, and then he sees a saucer.
Yeah, he sees a misty being and a saucer, yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, it seems to me a little bit convenient that a UFO team turn up and they see one, but, whatever.
Who knows? But what are the dogs? I mean, we've had cows. What have the dogs done?
So they proposed that they were being taken as biological samples.
Right.
But others said, actually, the dogs are merely collateral damage, and they'd wandered into, and bear with me here, a high-frequency force field or a landed craft that had been atomized or beamed up by accident. So the reason I mentioned Doctor Who earlier is because these are very Doctor Who-ish explanations.
Yeah.
So the idea that there was a craft with a force field around it, perhaps making it invisible, and the dog had walked into that and somehow been vaporized. That sounds like, it sounds like the plot of any comic book.
Yeah, absolutely. So almost it was disguising itself and the dog just got into the wrong part of it and got vaporized.
Now, you heard on that report that they'd mentioned a Geiger counter.
Yes,
So they did bring a Geiger counter into the woods. And when the team approached the site of the disappearances, the Geiger counter did spike. Now, West Sussex is a chalk county, and chalk is not radioactive. There's no granite, there's no radon gas seepage that would explain a sudden jump in background radiation. And yet, in the centre of the Chestnuts, the needles went up on the Geiger counter. And there was also the compass. He did mention that briefly in that clip. They placed a military compass on the grounds where Wallace the Chow had last been seen, and the needle, which should have pointed north towards the A27 and the hills beyond, swung violently and it started pointing towards the southeast. They moved it 5 yards away and it swam back to the north.
Right.
Move it back, it goes back to the southeast. So it's like a deviation of about 45 degrees.
Yeah.
And in ufology circles, a landing trace is obviously, what you'd be going for, the Holy Grail. And the theory is that the propulsion system of these crafts leave a magnetic signature burned into the earth, which confuses animals and compasses. But, I mean, I don't know. I find it a little bit... It's not exactly a comprehensive investigation, I don't think.
And like you said, I mean, I'm not saying the guy made it up, but it's quite convenient that the ufologist arrives, sees a shimmering being and, you know, a big footprint. And but sure, did they film the footprint or no? No, and
which
doesn't make sense either, does it?
Well, so there is a bit of footage, but you can't tell it's a footprint. I think it's a mixture of. The cameras aren't very good, and nobody really took that much notice of
a giant footprint.
Yeah. I find it like this is very much more one of those. This is treated as a skateboarding duck story, really.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask what was, because that was a clip, but was the general tone of the piece a little tongue-in-cheek? That it often is. Right?
Yeah, okay. But done in a sensitive way because people have lost their dogs. But I did. It was interesting that somebody sort of collaborate. It is interesting that somebody corroborates the fact that there was, you know, a craft scene there, even if the cameras don't pick it up.
I got a feeling that, you know, let's say the aliens had beamed these dogs on board. When they got the pug, they must have gone, my God, this must be from another planet.
I know, right?
I think weird-looking dog.
I think they must have been taking a book. Right, these are all the same animal. Are you sure?
That pug? Oh, there's my dog. We mentioned pug and my dog's bark.
Yeah, he's like, no, he's not a real dog. But yes, it is peculiar, but it's not the end of what happens. You see, then, after the dog disappearances, we move on to the grey mist.
Okay.
This is possibly the most recurring element of the Clapham legend, and it links the dogs and aliens and another element of the unknown. Because in 1977, a man named Dave Stringer, who's representing the Southern Paranormal Investigation Group, conducted a vigil in the woods. He wasn't there to find dogs, but he was there to see if he could contact, well, something else, maybe spirits.
I like it. It's a good 4-letter acronym, isn't it? SPIG.
SPIG. Oh yes, yeah. Right. David Stringer of SPIG.
Yeah.
He reported standing in the clearing as the temperature plummeted. So it was a warm August evening, and suddenly he could see his breath, and then he saw it form a thick grey vapour. It didn't roll in like sea fog. It emerged from the ground, swirling upwards. Stringer claimed that the mist coalesced into a shape that he described as a black mass, a solidifying darkness that stood about 12 feet tall.
That's freaky.
Now,
so it came out of the ground?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So other dog walkers had reported this mist too. One witness, who didn't leave their name, said they were walking their terrier when a patch of grey fog suddenly appeared on the path ahead. The dog growled at it, and the mist seemed to move towards them against the wind, and the owner didn't wait to see if it was a weather phenomena or what. They just left. And the theory then evolved. Was it a transporter beam? Some people said, is it a screen memory? So like a psychic camouflage. We've spoken about screen memories before.
Yeah.
So some people, you know, they claim to have seen an owl when actually what they saw was a grey alien, you know, that sort of thing.
And in my memory, my screen memories are generally happen to people who've been on board a ship.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Or they've had some kind of interaction with them.
It's probing time.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. But this seems different to that.
This seems different to that, and I don't think that terrier was probed. But again, I don't think... I don't really buy the screen memory thing, and I don't really understand what this guy is trying to explain this thing is. He just seems to think that it's a paranormal phenomena. I mean, it has more in common with some of the things that we've heard about.
Sounds a little more like a shadow creature, doesn't it? A shadow entity.
Yeah. And I was also thinking about, you know, the vanishings in the American parks and national parks. Yeah. Missing 411, that kind of thing to it. But this misty figure in this shape, it is described by some people as, even though it's huge, taking on a human-like form, which is something that guy on the clip mentioned. He said he saw something shadowy standing in the trees. And so that part of the story does hold up with other witnesses as well.
Yeah. Although, if, let's just say there's a normal mist there, it would be pretty easy to kind of, pareidolia it into existence, wouldn't it, rather than it being there?
Yeah.
Although on an August night, is it going to be misty? Probably not, is it?
Well, no, that's the point, I suppose. I mean, you do get mists if you get a sudden blast of cold air, which is not paranormal at all. It's kind of coming in just because you've had a change in air pressure. And we've all had that on a warm winter's day. You can sometimes get a chill at night, can't you?
Felt a bit paranormal as I was walking the dog around in the chill yesterday.
Yeah. Well, something may have actually caused all this to happen.
Okay.
Because there's another story which predates the BBC cameras and the dogs disappearing. If we go back to 1967, before anything was talked about in this woods, we have to visit two schoolboys, Toyn Newton and John Arnold, because they're experimenting with a Ouija board.
Oh, no, I've got a Ouija board in it.
Yeah.
Bingo!
They are in the nearby village of Rustington, and they're just kids, of course, messing around, asking it, who will I marry? The dreaded question, when will I die? They did ask that, yes. Right. And the board spelled out a message that made no sense to them at all. The board claims that Clapham Wood, a place that neither boy had visited, was a base. The message was specific. It said the woods were being used by friends from elsewhere.
Right.
That they said were here for sulphur.
Sulphur? Well, sulphur's come up before, hasn't it, in terms of UFO?
Yes.
More as a byproduct rather than searching for it.
Yeah, well, we covered, there was a book that one of us talked about
Paranormal
3 years
Smells,
ago. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the sulphur connection with sort of demons and hauntings and stuff. Yeah. But at the time, the boys had laughed it off. But luckily for us, Toyn Newton became a researcher into the paranormal, and he revisited that message. Investigative chemist simulations suggest that high concentrations of sulphur can induce paralysis, nausea, and confusing smells. The smell of burning matter, which is described by 18th century folklore in the area. Okay. Which is very interesting. This is what Toyn had found out. So people had spoken about areas where there was perhaps, visited by the devil. And the strangest of all, in the 1970s, farmers near Clapham reported a bizarre problem. Their soil was becoming depleted of specific minerals at an impossible rate. So what Toyn began to call the salt and sulphur theory was born. The aliens weren't explorers, they were miners, and the dogs, Wallace, the collie, the retriever, they were all unlucky trespassers into an interstellar mining site. They had breathed in the fumes, they'd hit the radiation barrier, or they were scooped up to prevent them digging where they shouldn't. It's a fantastic story, but it does wrap everything up, the lights, the smells, the sick animals.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's just think about this for a second. So we're basically saying, let's say they've travelled light years to get here rather than interdimensional. Well, either kind of works, doesn't it? I mean, aren't there better places on Earth to go find sulphur without being spotted?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not alien.
That is true.
Well, that's not to the best of my knowledge. No, it's possible that... there's some reason why this is an excellent place to get the sulphur.
Or it's a testing thing. Okay.
Yeah.
The other question I had, going back a little bit, the two boys doing the Ouija board.
Yes.
How does that work? It's interesting, isn't it? I have, in my memory, I don't think I've ever come across another story that connects the Ouija board with a UFO encounter, or alien. But
well, I mean, I was going to bring up the Cassiopeia experiment because that is relatively
like a Ouija board, right?
Yeah,
right.
But it depends. It was not very clear whether the board is contacting an alien or whether it's just a spirit saying that's what's happening over there. I rather took it as it's a spirit that is saying,
Wow.
oh, yeah, there's visitors. Because it does say there are visitors.
Yeah.
But it doesn't end here. There's more to this story.
There's more?
Oh, yeah, there's more. There's more. Because by the late 1980s, the narrative of Clapham Wood changes again.
Wow.
By the time the UFOs had stopped being a headline, there was a book out called The Demonic Connection, and that was written by Toyn Newton and a guy called Charles Walker. And in it, they proposed the aliens were a cover, or perhaps a misunderstanding, because they claimed the woods were the territory of a satanic cult.
Oh, here
called
we
the
go.
Friends
Satanic Panic.
of Hecate or Hecate. They claimed the dogs weren't beamed up; they were stolen, taken for you can imagine.
Oh, no.
And the legend mirrors the culture of the time, something that we've spoken a lot about, because in the 80s, we've got the Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
So I think there's a really interesting thing here, because we go from the 70s, which is like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and positive images about aliens. And don't forget, Close Encounters of the Third Kind is just one of the TV programs that is sort of showing things disappearing, then coming back. It's a really positive picture of alien abduction. All of those people who go away to, seemingly learn something and then be brought back, and, the children running around finding their parents and stuff.
The airmen from the World War II.
Yeah, that's right. This is really, really different to the Satanic Panic of the 80s. And I'm just thinking these guys are bringing out a book to kind of hit on...
Yeah, kind of cash in on that.
Cash in on that.
And also, the only thing that does give it credibility is they didn't take the terrier. I'm sure they'd gone, no, that is just going to be far too much hassle. Give the terrier back. Yeah. And suddenly, the grey mist is a transporter beam. It's not a transporter beam, it's a demon. Paralysed dogs weren't suffering from radiation. They were suffering from psychic attacks by black magicians. Yeah. You've got the shadow creatures emerging. Okay. Yeah.
But there's reason why this theory does take a hold. Because this is when the bodies start turning up as well.
Bodies?
Yes, between 1972 and 1981, 4 bodies were found in or near Clapham Woods.
Human?
Yep. A missing police officer, Peter Goldsmith.
Okay.
A vicar, a Reverend Harry Neil Snelling. A homeless woman, Gillian Matthews. And a pensioner, Leon Foster.
Wow.
The alien theory, which kind of, at the beginning of it, seems like fun, spooky, mysterious, suddenly feels a little bit trite when you've got 4 dead people there. Yeah.
And did they all die in the same way?
So, no. Okay. And I'm going to go into one of those deaths because it's very mysterious. I'm going to do that on the extra scoop.
Okay.
But as the legend of the alien dog abductions failed, it was replaced by stories of hooded figures and altar stones. Remember how I did the hooded figures?
Yeah. The Entry Hoods.
The Entry Hoods, yes, exactly. My favourite rock band of all time. Yeah. So it's become a true crime story of the 1990s.
But still a paranormal true crime rather than a serial killer type crime.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So just to put...
But sorry, just to interrupt you. That does kind of tie in with serial killer mythology, isn't it? Because they're often serial killers do start with animals, don't they? Well,
that is very much kind of what the book is proposing. Right, okay. But this idea of it being in the woods because it's the perfect place for to hide nefarious activity.
Well, if you can get round the mining.
Well, so I did want to point out that I found on YouTube, some people who had walked the path that Peter Love had walked in Clapham Woods. And there's no doubt about it. There is, people go, there's a spooky feel here. But I did want to point out, because it's only fair to, the ground is chalk and it's honeycombed with flint mines, lime pits, Victorian wells that are covered over by just brambles and bracken. So if you're a dog like Wallace, a chow, heavy and eager, if you run into a patch of dense undergrowth and step on a rotten cover of an 18th century well, you're gonna fall, and there's going to be no sound because you're muffled by 20 feet of earth.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is an element of this that is easily explained, and I do think there is folklore building upon the dog disappearances, the 4 bodies around there. Now, initially,
what was the time frame on the 4 bodies? Do you know?
So 72 and 81, so 9-year period.
Okay, so that's quite a big period.
It's quite a big period, and it is an area of like reasonable conurbation. And I mean, I know I grew up in a village, and there are bodies that appear, but not because they've been murdered or abducted by aliens, because old people just sometimes die, and younger people also pass away for other reasons. But there are some strange things about those deaths, as I say. I will go into that. But this idea that this is a place where it's so serene and nothing could possibly happen to the dogs, it must be paranormal. I don't think it's quite that. And what I was minded to do was kind of make a comparison. So back in the 80s, when we were kids, regularly programs like TVAM would turn up. There was a road which was said to have a reverse gravity to it. Do you remember this? Where if you, I can't remember whereabouts in the country it was, but there's a particular road where you drive halfway up it, you take the handbrake off, and the car will start going uphill. And the idea is that gravity is reversed here, or there's a magnetic force. It's not that at all.
Wasn't it an optical illusion?
It's an optical illusion.
Yeah,
yes.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't stop film cameras turning up there. Right. I remember at least 2 occasions that being done on television.
Yeah, I do as well.
And so that is just, it's a TV producer filling airtime, and I really do think that is what was happening with that nationwide report.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they would have given airtime to an investigator with that level of interview if it hadn't just been like, we've got, I think the full report is like 11 minutes long, something like this. We've got 11 minutes to fill tonight. Let's do this. I think that helped build the subject. And then the guy who's doing the Ouija board suddenly writes a book about it.
Yeah.
That is released about demonic possession and black magic rituals in a period where demonic possession and black magic rituals are all over the news.
Was there any evidence of, black magic rituals, stuff being left around or nothing picked up?
Not really, although the case I'm going to go into is a little bit mysterious. But there are very, very I would say unreliable accounts of hooded figures, of black candles and all of that sort of thing. Right. But you know what? Again, where I grew up, I've told you that I came across a practicing coven of witches. I have, in the years I've walked my dogs through the local woods there, I've seen peculiar figures wandering around, and I'm not sure they were up to black magic things. I think they were probably stealing wood, poaching deer, having illicit affairs. I don't think any of it was down to worshipping a demon. No.
Oh, well, you'd have to go and check with the butchers, see if they'd had a run on sheep's hearts, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes. Don't let me... Don't get me started on what the butcher's going to sell me for my dog. When Dave Stringer saw the black mist and the compasses spun, he wasn't alone. Other people saw the lights, hundreds of them, police officers, teachers, nurses, doctors. Something definitely happened in Worthing in the 1970s. The skies were busy. The woods were active. Maybe the dogs didn't go into space. Maybe they fell down wells. But why did 2 dogs fall down the same invisible well?
That is weird.
In 1 week, exactly when the lights were seen overhead.
Are there any military bases around there?
Not really, no. Not so close, no. No, the nearest military base is kind of, tens of miles away.
Yeah.
But Peter Love never got an answer. John Cornford never got an answer. People still walk their dogs in Clapham Woods. Some people will say they never go there after dark. That is true. I've seen that on some of the Reddit threads. Some people say they won't let their dogs off there. But again, I think that they would give the practical answer that they don't want their dogs chasing a rabbit into a badger set and getting
I
stuck.
have a similar thing with my dog's not very good off the lead because he loves to chase anything. And like where I walk him, there's those little, is it the muntjac deer? Squirrels, muntjac. He's off, you know what I mean? And I can't, he won't recall at that point. He's just off. So no, I rarely let him off the lead because he's so badly behaved. So yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you wouldn't want him to get lost either. No, absolutely not. I mean, the one time there's one time when he was wandering around off the lead. I think my daughter was walking him. He decided to head home and he just bolted and ran across quite a busy road, nearly got run over. But he just decided I'd have enough, I'm going home. So yeah, maybe that's more to do with my dog than anything else. But you understand that, I get that bit of not letting him off the lead in that scenario. But especially if there is a mythology of dogs going missing, that adds an extra level to it, doesn't it?
There is. And the this idea of the sulphur smell and everything, something that it was not particularly relevant in telling the story, but just so as you know, there's an ancient hill fort called Chanctonbury Ring, don't laugh, which is it's about a mile northeast of the woods, and that does have a powerful association with the devil because folklore says if you run around it 7 times backwards, you summon the devil.
Right.
So there's already this kind of idea of, most places have a place called, the devil's arse or something like that, and you shouldn't go there, and sulphurs. I just think there's loads of stuff coming together. But again, it shouldn't be dismissed. It shouldn't be dismissed because people did die there.
Yeah. Wow.
But yes, as I say, a peculiar story about a man known as Mr. Lincoln coming up in the extra. But
and anything, so 90s, it seems like it tapered off, basically.
It tapered off. So there are still people who would go there to go UFO hunting. That is true. Although I haven't found any good UFO reports recently.
The sightings are pretty poor, aren't they, from what you've said today, apart from the ufologist who seems to have hit the jackpot of seeing the silver craft.
Yeah, there
few lights, but a bit of mist, but nothing major, is it?
Well, people in the surrounding villages, they were seeing silver discs, and they were, at night, as I say, they were seeing phosphorescent balls of light dancing around. That is true. But again, because of the time frame, so we haven't got cameras on phones or anything like that. We've just got a load of witness reports. The police were collecting reports. People were phoning in sightings. So it was more than just people seeing the planet Venus at night. There was something going on. And as you rightly asked about the military airbase, you can't immediately attach it to military activity. You could attach it to maybe something that's not paranormal, so like infamously like marsh lights or something like that, like the chalky downs, the amount of man-made holes in there. There might be gas build up. Yeah, exactly. Could be something like that. It could be that there's a build up of something there that we haven't yet discovered, which is why maybe there's a huge amount of iron ore that was deposited by a previous mine. That's why the compass goes crazy. That could also be releasing some gas which is somehow luminescent at night. There are lots of things which shouldn't be discounted before we start saying this was a place that aliens were coming and it was convenient because it was under the cover of trees. And some of those explanations sort of contradict themselves. So these aliens have got cloaking devices which are killing dogs, but they're coming to this spot because the trees are cloaking them.
Yeah.
It is sort of, you can't have both sides of that argument.
And they're mining sulphur at the same time.
And they might, that's my favourite one, mining sulphur.
I'm just trying to, pick out why they would go there. But,
Well, so I mentioned earlier that there were farmers who were saying that their soil was being depleted of various minerals. That is true, and it hasn't been quite rightly solved. It hasn't been properly solved. as to what was happening. So some of the explanations are that the soil samples weren't tested properly. It could be that there was an enormous amount of runoff, which was a potential explanation I saw, so that there was a very, very wet winter in between the measuring of two of the samples.
Right.
So it was suggested that the water had carried away some of the minerals, although you would expect any farmer to understand that, and so I don't think that is. I think that's a very amateur explanation for that. Something else could be just a simple change in the fertilizer that they
I
were
was
using.
going to say, yeah, I mean, maybe somebody using some dodgy, fertilizer or pesticide could be connected with this, maybe.
Yeah. But either way, I find it challenging that dogs never really come out of alien abductions particularly well.
I was thinking, why would, but I mean, if you take it from a doubter's point of view, what's really let's go with the doubter's point of view that this is, almost a hysteria that builds up. It's an amazing example of how it can kind of trigger something like that, so within the space of 20 years, you go from abducted dogs, UFOs, footprints, satanic panic, Ouija boards, the whole lot is in there, and even to this day people going, I don't go there after dark. If all of it is just normal stuff, it's amazing how those things can take hold in an area, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so those stories, I think what we're seeing, in some ways is an amplification of local folklore type stories. Like, we've spoken about from all over the country, if you fall asleep on that hill, the aliens will get you.
Yeah.
If you go to that well, Jenny Greenteeth will get you. I think there's very much part of that is coming through here.
Wow. What a great story, though.
Yeah. I was going to say that there's something about dogs. So when that UFO abduction story I told, the lady in Wales, that really horrific one, well, one of the first things that happens is the dog gets taken out of her bedroom and he's never seen again.
That's true. And we have had stories of aliens with dog-like pets, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
But whenever a Bigfoot sees one, it seems to kill the dog.
Yeah.
Like the dogs and paranormal, unless they are the paranormal, unless it's a dog man, the dogs never come out of it well. And
Rob dogs.
I know. That's probably Scooby-Doo. Look out.
Yeah. Really.
Anyway, we'll go further into this on the Extra Scoop, but it is a slightly separate story, which just kind of adds to the evidence either side of this, really. But it is fascinating. But yeah, if you're going out that way, if you live out that way, let us know what the current thinking is now. If you live near there, do you take your dog down there? Would you take your dog down there? Is it known as a dangerous place because of the mines? Is it known as a paranormal area? I can only get the information from, third hand from what I'm reading and seeing. But
have you smelt sulphur?
Yes. Have you gone missing?
Let us know.
Yeah.
Well, come and join us at patreon.com/TQMpod. We'll be discussing this a bit more, and Ben's going to go into his grisly cases. And you can either go to patreon.com/TQMpod, or there should be a link in the show notes. Come and join us there. Wow.
Thank you very much.
Next week, I've no idea what I'm doing. I haven't even started it yet, which is worrying me a bit, but we'll have something.
We will have something. Let's have it. Let's not make it about dogs next time. It's too difficult.
I won't do dogs.
I did cut out a lot of the bad stuff about the dogs.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did that.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, we'll see you next time on the Quantum Mechanics. Thanks for joining us.
Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?